tensions between the United States and Canada have reached a critical point, prompting Canadians to take matters into their own hands. A powerful movement is sweeping across the country, with hundreds of thousands of Canadians making a conscious decision to shift their spending habits. This movement, which has gained immense traction under the name Buy Canadian, is transforming the way people shop, with a clear goal: to prioritize homegrown products over American brands. The momentum is building rapidly, with online communities devoted to the cause surpassing 500,000 members and continuing to grow at an unprecedented rate. Social media platforms have become the battleground for this economic rebellion, as Canadians proudly showcase their shopping carts filled exclusively with domestic goods. Supermarkets are responding to this surge in patriotic consumerism by prominently displaying "Made in Canada" labels on their shelves, making it easier for shoppers to identify and support local products. However, this movement extends far beyond simply switching out Starbucks coffee for a Canadian alternative or replacing Kraft macaroni and cheese with a homegrown version. It is a direct economic statement, a collective declaration that Canadians refuse to be pushed around. The catalyst for this growing movement was a recent decision by U.S. President Donald Trump, who announced plans to impose a substantial 25% tariff on Canadian imports, with an additional 10% tariff targeting Canada's energy exports. With February 1 looming as the enforcement date, concerns are mounting among both consumers and businesses. If these tariffs take effect, they could drive up prices on a wide range of goods, from groceries to fuel, causing economic instability and uncertainty. In response to these looming threats, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has made it clear that his government will not back down. His administration is preparing a series of countermeasures designed to shield Canadian businesses from the economic fallout. However, while politicians engage in diplomatic maneuvers and trade negotiations, everyday citizens have chosen to take immediate action. Grocery stores across the country are adapting to this shift in consumer behavior. Some major retailers are restructuring their store layouts to highlight Canadian-made products, while independent grocers are rolling out bright "Made in Canada" tags to help customers make informed choices. This wave of economic nationalism is not limited to supermarkets. Restaurants, coffee shops, and small businesses are also embracing the movement, proudly advertising their reliance on Canadian suppliers. For individuals like Peggy Chambers, the decision to buy Canadian has taken on a new level of significance. While she has always made an effort to support Canadian products, the current situation has turned that effort into an obligation. "I check labels 3 times before putting anything in my cart," she explains. "As long as it's not made in the US, I feel like I'm making a difference." This mindset is spreading rapidly, bolstered by viral shopping guides circulating on social media. These guides offer a comprehensive roadmap for Canadians looking to avoid American imports, listing well-known US brands alongside their Canadian counterparts. The movement encourages shoppers to replace products like Campbell's Soup, Lysol cleaning supplies, and Pepsi beverages with Canadian alternatives. However, trade experts caution that this approach is not always as straightforward as it seems. Many American brands are deeply intertwined with Canadian industries, relying on Canadian farmers, factories, and suppliers for production. A boycott aimed at American products could inadvertently harm Canadian workers whose livelihoods depend on cross-border trade. Despite these complexities, the movement continues to gain traction. At its core, it is not just about what is on the label, it is about making a stand. The initial spark for this shift came directly from Trump's tariff threats, which sent shockwaves through Canada's economy. But instead of waiting for government officials to negotiate a resolution, consumers have stepped up to take action themselves. Across the nation, people are adjusting their spending habits. Social media feeds are filled with advice on how to make smarter, Canadian-first purchases. Viral lists provide side-by-side comparisons of American and Canadian brands, helping consumers make the switch without sacrificing convenience. Even grocery chains are actively participating, adding labels and promotional materials to guide shoppers toward Canadian-made goods. For certain industries, making the shift is relatively simple. Dairy, meat, and locally grown seasonal produce are almost always Canadian. But when it comes to packaged foods, cleaning supplies, or fresh fruit in the winter months, things become more complicated. One alternative that has gained popularity is frozen produce, as many frozen fruits and vegetables are processed and packaged in Canada, offering a viable substitute when fresh, local options are unavailable. Beyond the grocery sector, the economic impact of this movement is far-reaching. While Canadian farmers and manufacturers are experiencing a surge in demand, businesses that rely on American trade are bracing for potential hardships. Pierre Olivier, who runs a model train manufacturing company in St. Thomas, Ontario, is among those concerned. His business is heavily dependent on American customers, and if tariffs go into effect, he may be forced to raise prices, a move that could drive his U.S. customers away permanently. The repercussions extend to larger industries as well. If the Buy Canadian movement continues to gain traction, major retailers may struggle to keep up with the demand for Canadian-made products. This could lead to price increases and a reduced selection of goods, causing ripple effects across the entire economy. Meanwhile, Trudeau's government is preparing its own counterattack against Trump's tariffs. Canadian officials are considering imposing tariffs on American exports worth billions of dollars, strategically targeting products from politically sensitive U.S. states. Items such as Florida orange juice and Kentucky bourbon have been singled out in an effort to pressure Trump's key allies into rethinking their stance on the trade dispute. However, this trade conflict is beginning to extend beyond economic policies and consumer spending. National tensions are spilling into everyday life, with reports of Canadian sports fans booing the U.S. national anthem at games. Many Canadians feel betrayed by their southern neighbor, a country that has long been considered an ally. Energy has also become a central issue in this standoff. Canada is the United States' largest supplier of crude oil and a key provider of electricity to northeastern states. Some Canadian leaders, including Ontario Premier Doug Ford, have suggested using energy exports as a bargaining chip, threatening to cut off supply if U.S. policies continue to hurt Canadian businesses. However, this approach is not without risks. Provinces like Alberta, which depend heavily on oil exports, warn that restricting energy trade could backfire, harming Canada's economy more than the United States. The deep economic integration between Canada and the U.S. makes this trade dispute incredibly complex. The two countries have spent decades building interconnected supply chains, and attempting to untangle them is proving to be both messy and full of unintended consequences. While Canada is determined to push back against unfair trade policies, the challenge lies in doing so without further jeopardizing its relationship with its largest trading partner. Behind the scenes, government officials from both countries are working to navigate this volatile situation. High-level meetings, urgent strategy discussions, and discreet negotiations are taking place in an attempt to find a resolution. But as pressure continues to mount, the key question remains: how far is Canada willing to go? Some believe that responding with retaliatory tariffs is the only way to make the U.S. take notice. Others fear that escalating the conflict could cause widespread economic harm, affecting businesses, workers, and investor confidence on both sides of the border. Economic analysts suggest that the U.S. government may have underestimated Canada's willingness to fight back. While American policymakers may have expected frustration from their northern neighbor, they likely did not anticipate the scale of this grassroots economic rebellion. If Canada follows through with retaliatory measures, the consequences will not be one-sided. Both nations will face significant economic fallout. For many Canadians, however, this dispute is about more than just trade. It is about national pride. Every dollar spent on a Canadian-made product feels like an act of defiance, a statement that Canada can stand on its own without being dependent on the United States. While some industries, such as agriculture and manufacturing, may find opportunities in this shift, others face serious challenges. Many Canadian businesses rely on American investors, partners, and consumers. Severing ties with the U.S. market could lead to lost revenue and diminished opportunities for growth. As the 30-day negotiation window approaches its expiration, both nations are under intense pressure to find a solution. Canada must demonstrate its economic strength while addressing U.S. concerns, including border security and trade imbalances. The relationship between Canada and the United States has long been built on mutual trust and economic cooperation, but this trade dispute is putting that foundation to the test. With the threat of tariffs looming, both sides must decide whether to mend their differences or risk an all-out economic confrontation. The world watches closely, waiting to see which path they will choose.